Hi, this is Kendra from Pencil and Pigment, and today is Vlogoween day 19. And today I wanted to talk about bird beaks. Now I'm going to put up some extreme photos of some unusual ones or ones you may not be aware of. For the most part, the important takeaway for beaks is that when you go to draw the beak, however the shape is, this is just hypothetically a beak, that it's in proportion to the bird, right? And relative to the eye. All you need, that's pretty much all you need to know is, you know, how the tip, does the tip hang over? Does it come to a point? And then in relation to how big is the beak to the size of the head? This beak is one head width, and about half the distance, equal distance, is the eyeball. So that's how I sort of gauge and put beaks in, is I look at the size and then the shape. So size, shape, and then the last thing is color. Once I have it relative and once I know it's accurate for the type of bird it is, then I do color last. So kind of these steps. Now, there are some unusual ones, some fun ones. If you really like beaks, if you like zooming in and doing like portrait style, or you're going in mass detail to the beak, the rhinoceros hornbill, I'll throw up a photo. That is very much, when I look at the shape of that, it gives me a very toucan vibes. But I'm just going off of the shape. So this is the bottom one. And then the top one sits right here, about halfway. And then there's one that connects and goes up. But it doesn't go all the way out to this line, this little dotted line. It curls up before that. So then I have to figure out the accuracy of what this is going to look like. And then in relation to where the eyeball is, say this is the eyeball, here is the yellow color, and then there's a ring of black. There's a lot to this eyeball. This eyeball is really, really fun. And I might do this bird at some point. And then there's like the red band, and then the rest of the bird is that black color. And the bird sort of comes out like this. So understanding the shape and what that looks like is integral to your illustration. The line of the beak extends past. These are the color areas, and you have like a little red bit that goes up and around. There's a red bit on this one, and then this is really pale. This bottom one and this one are really pale, light green and light yellow, and then the rest is orange that fades up. So shape, getting the shape to the accuracy of the head. Now I have the head going off the page, so that's not very accurate or helpful in this instance. But you see that I'm making sure that things align, that things look like they're the correct shape, they're going the correct angle. We can look at another one that's kind of extreme. Here's a black skimmer, and it is a hummingbird that has a really, really, really long beak. So for this one, this is very much going to be accuracy when it comes to, I need to make sure like I save space to put the photo up. Okay. The accuracy of the length of the beak. So if I'm drawing the beak, okay, I'm not going to go off the page. And here's my beak, right? They have really, really long beaks. And here's the eyeball. okay? I need to make sure that the length of the beak is in relation to the size of the bird. So I can either do that looking at a reference photo or understanding, you know, what these things look like, how big they are, tail feathers, fun little claws here coming out. And then obviously the wings are moving really, really fast. So I would get a different reference photo for the wings. But for accuracy of length of beak, trying to figure out, and then the coloring kind of, it's olive green to teal. Well, this is kind of a dark army green to teal to olive green to really dark sepia and black. And then the beak is black on the underside because of the shadow. And then the top would be gray, mid-level gray. And that is the highlight for black is gray. So, when drawing this bird and trying to figure out what's going on with it, you need to make sure that it's accurate, the length of the beak, because that's what sets this hummingbird apart from other hummingbirds. Like the Anna's hummingbird, this beak is not this long. Again, mine is a little bit too wide, but I wanted you to be able to see it on camera. Shoebill, I've already drawn one of those, but they have a very substantial beak. The beak is absolutely massive. So when you look at the size of the beak, it goes down to a portion of the neck. Do you see what I'm doing here? Like I'm taking measurements to make sure that the beak is accurate to the size of the face. So head to beaks. And then the positioning of the eye in relation to the beak and the width of the head, the width of the beak. Like I'm making sure that everything measures the same without having to use any measuring implements. This is how I make sure that like I don't do a teeny tiny beak and a really huge head and then it's out of proportion and it doesn't look accurate. Unless, asterisk, that is your design style. That is an artistic choice where you decide, like Angry Birds, if you've ever seen that cartoon, they're super rotund. They're very, very spherical birds with a little beak and then they're all angry. That is a like illustration style that somebody chose to do for that cartoon, for animation. If you decide you want all your birds to have itty bitty beaks and huge heads and then they're all like happy about it, then that is a design choice. If you're going for realism, you kind of have to figure out accurate measurements of where everything goes and how everything works. There's some other unique ones. The American white pelican is another one that has a really unique, unusual type beak. And if you start with the head, it's however you want to start this. So if you want to draw the beak first and then figure out how it relates to the head, you could do that. So let's start with the beak first, I guess. So I'm doing the underside and my cat is running a marathon by herself. This goes up into sort of that yellow patch that goes into the eyeball that's like orange and then pale blue on the inside. That's really striking. This comes up over. It's just triangles. These are just really extreme versions of triangles. Okay. And what makes this bird unique is the portion that pops up. Now you have to figure out when drawing this beak, like the top kind of hangs over a little bit, where you're going to put that bump out. And if you measure, I'm going to say 1, 2, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this 1, 1, 2, and I'm going to put it around here. And I'm going to call this accurate. This bird has a very unique bump, okay? And you can shadow it and it has like little striation lines and weird things going on with it. But in relation to the bird and the bird's head, I'm not going to be able to get those awesome head feathers just because my hummingbird's in the way. But I want to make sure that this is all on camera. that this is what this looks like. And then you make sure that everything is proportionate to that beak. The head, one, little bit, 1, 2, and then it's the same, it's equal distant. It looks all right. This may not be narrow enough, but this is my version of the American white pelican, looking at beaks and proportion. Another great one that's unique, and you get to decide which angle you want to draw this bird in. You could do it head first, like face first. You could do side profile if you're doing for length, and that is the spoonbill. And the spoonbill has the beak. I'm going to start with the beak first just so you see, and it gets wider like a spoon. Like it was given that name because of what it looks like. So it looks like a spoon. I really hope you can see this. Maybe I'll make it really much darker. Okay, so there's the beak. And then from there, well, that's kind of straight off, isn't it? And an angle down. We have the head. The head is small, folks. It's a small head. And then there's the eye, and then over here is just a little tiny scotch of eye. And then you get into like neck shadow and the neck, okay? Which gets wider as it goes down into the body. But it's all in relation to this beak here. So you figure out the beak is kind of over one whole chest area. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it's in proportion to the neck. It's in proportion to what it looks like. This is a weird, unique angle. And again, this can be done from the side and it looks really unique. It could be face forward and the beak goes straight down, and you can have it foreshortened. It's coming at you. It looks unique. Hold on, let me show you what I did. Here's a pelican, but this is a very unique view of the pelican where I chose to have it face front, both eyes, and then you see the full length. It looks really strange like this. Like that's a stylistic choice to pick a photo that looks like that, where the bird's beak is coming forward, so it's the biggest portion to the body. Here's a duck, extreme version of a duck. The beak is the biggest thing because it's coming at you. It's being foreshortened. Now you can choose reference photos like this. You can draw things in this style like this. It puts it out of proportion. Once you learn how to proportion your birds, their beak, the positioning of the eye, how big it is to their body, what the main takeaway is for that bird. Once you learn how to do that, you can then move into foreshortened birds. It's like an more advanced drawing technique. It's a very, it's a much more difficult reference photo and idea to use because your brain goes, it's not that big. It doesn't really look like that. Why are you doing that? But if you're interested in beaks, toucans, there's a lot of toucans. Let me show you some. I'm in a really old sketchbook of mine here, but when choosing toucans, there's a lot of different kinds. So you really get the choice of coloring. So this one has a very greenish blue face. Again, this portion is done with colored pencils, and then I glued some origami paper and vellum to create wings. So my toucan is also a dragon. But you can see how unique the coloring is. Look at this style of toucan. This one is very, very different. It's blue. It has a main black beak. You're going to use a lot of black for toucan beaks. I'm just telling you now, that's kind of how it is. Here's another one that has red and a very soft array of coloring for its beak and a very warm yellow chest. But figuring out the beaks in relation to how big the head is, making sure these are proportionate. Here's another one that has an even bigger beak that has red. Absolutely massive. Figuring out the head, 1, 2, and some change. So the head of this one is tiny in relation to the size of the beak. And I lifted color here to sort of get it lighter so you can see, like there's the dark line, but when the beaks come together, a lot of bird beaks have fine details where they've been munching and crunching things their whole life, so the beaks get dirty, the beaks get scratched, they get nicks and dings out of them. Especially toucan beaks have uneven portions. Really, really hone in, like I said, find the best reference photo you can, super high quality, and look at all the weird specific details within the beak. Are there scratches? Oh, here's a great auk that I turned into a dragon. This is just pen and ink, but understanding the relationship of how big everything's supposed to be. And then I decided how big I wanted the wings to be. That's a design choice. That's not an accurate thing to this bird for it to have dragon wings. That's what I mean by like choosing a style and adding something to it. You get to be, you get to set the rules for stuff like that. But it doesn't always, you know, it doesn't always ring true. So a lot of these beaks are super huge. There's toucanettes. I've drawn a couple toucanettes in my time. They have smaller beaks. You look at things like the green kingfisher. There's some unique birds that have just, the beaks are such a huge portion to the bird, where if the beak was super tiny, it just wouldn't be that bird anymore. It's such a huge factor. So making sure you get everything correlated together. Sorry, I have lots of illustrations going on here. In relationship to size, shape, and color. Now again with the color, a viewfinder helps in pinpointing specific ones to highlight and figure out, is that a warm red, is that a cool red? Sometimes when you isolate it with a white border, you can really pick some of that out and then choose more accurate colors for coloring that bird. Unless, again, asterisk, this is art. So know the rules so you can break them. Maybe your, you know, rhinoceros hornbill, its beak is purple and, I don't know, aqua. So if you want to change the game, you could still follow the rules that the bottom one and the top half portion are the same color. Like those could be the turquoise or aqua or ultramarine, whatever color you're going with. And then the top part could be different shades of purples if you want. Like once you understand the detailing of where the colors are supposed to be, how like there's a little bit of red in the middle that kind of divides that out, but it's still connected. That could be aqua. Like it could be another color. You can introduce a third color in here. Know the rules, break them. So maybe your bird is all beak and you do tiny heads. I don't know how that would work, but you ultimately decide. So once you are comfortable like drawing beaks and putting that together and its relative size to the bird head, and you got the eye in the right placement, like the eye's not hanging off or doing anything that it shouldn't be doing. If you want to get weird with it and add this style of beak to a hummingbird and giving a hummingbird beak to one of these guys, you could then do that. If you want to give them bow ties and glasses and sort of, you know, weird top hats or something, you can do all those fun little things. Just really, really zoom in on what those beaks look like and understand that a lot of them are really, really strange. It's the same with like, okay, so here's a Canadian goose and its mouth is open. Like if you want to draw them with open mouths, that is something you absolutely can do. I'm not going to stop you. I just want you to draw and create and have a great time. But that's another sort of level of understanding difficulty here when you're doing the open mouth. You have to draw the inside and what that looks like for the bird. Okay, and this goes up, down. Let's see, this goes up, down, over. There's an eyeball. Where's the eyeball line up? It kind of lines up. They have very dark eyeballs. Okay. And then the goose have the white portion of their fur that kind of feathers. I call it fur. We all know I mean feathers. And this is really dark here. So, shadow and highlight and understanding where the darkest portions are for this bird. Like the whole beak's black, but the inside needs to be a different, it needs to be the darkest portion for this bird. It has its mouth open. Now, if you choose to put something in its mouth, that's going to be another stylistic choice. Do you want this bird to be holding its type of food in its mouth, or have, you know, a little, I don't know. Maybe it's a flower, okay? He has a little flower in his mouth. Again, this is all black right here. Understanding the rules so you can break them when practicing how to draw mouths and getting the inside of that, and knowing that there's going to be different value range inside the mouth with dark pitch black to lighter black, like cool black versus warm black. I know, it's a lot. It's a lot, but you can do it. And the best way to do it, and the best way to get good at it, at identifying all this stuff and figuring out all this stuff, is to just draw. You have to draw, you have to practice. Like, we can watch all the videos we want that teach us stuff, but if we never set out and try and do it, we're never going to figure out, we're never going to learn it for ourselves. Like, we're never going to get good at it. And if your goal is to draw more art, or get better at drawing art, or draw things more accurately, or whatever your long-term goals are, you have to practice. You have to. So, I believe you can do it, because I know you can do it, because I've done it. Every day. If you could draw at least 10 minutes every day and just pick a thing, and maybe you just do a page of weird beaks and you put it together, you make some notes, you identify the birds, you talk about what you like, you didn't like, you can make notes like this. Hate this bird, can't draw a beak thin enough, looks weird. Don't care for this bird, shoebill, beak's too funky. Love this bird, lots of color, can get weird with it. Maybe try metallics, or pen and ink over watercolor, or just make some interesting notes for yourself, like ideas of things to put in birds' mouth, like food, plants, botanicals. Like, if you want to include botanicals, if you're a botanical artist and you're stuck drawing birds this month or something, you can incorporate botanicals. They can have botanicals in their mouth. They can all be wearing crowns of like flowers. Like, if you want your birds to have flower crowns, they absolutely can have a crown. We'll give this one a ribbon. You know how they have like ribbons at the end of flower crowns sometimes? So this bird has a little flower crown. You can include botanicals if you want, is what I'm saying. You can figure out how to include the things that you enjoy. If you enjoy sunsets, all your birds are enjoying beautiful sunsets. If you like doing urban sketching and going out and doing buildings and architecture and things like that, you could definitely have, you know, birds in the background. They don't have to be big birds. You can put them in. There's things you can do. I'm just saying, when it comes to beaks and things, like even in here, like you can have a little bit of beak. It's a major factor in bird design and what sets birds apart. So please don't admit that. Please spend some time looking at that and enjoying what that looks like for different birds. Here's a little toucanet. See? Much more manageable beak. If the beaks are too big, they're too overwhelming, it's not what you're interested in, maybe you like eyeballs, maybe you like feathers, maybe you just like doing wings, then I would say pick birds with little teeny tiny beaks. A lot of songbirds have little tiny beaks. And then it's just, not that guy, sorry. just in relation to how wide the head is. And pick the birds that interest you. Or you could just go by beak color and just pick the ones that have the weirdest colors. A lot of them have black gray beaks. So all you need is one black color pencil. And make sure the bottom's darker and the top's a little lighter. You can do this. Sometimes you can hide the beak. Like, if it's not the most important factor in what you're trying to show, like if that's not what interests you, like for me, it's this huge mohawk thing and then just the color. The beak wasn't important here. Beak is one of the major portions that has color on this white bird. So figure out relationship 1.5. That looks accurate for this bird, for the sparrow. You can do this. If you have to get a ruler out and be like, okay, 2 centimeters, and then here is about 5. So 2, 4, 5, that's 2.5. That's accurate. You can get out a little ruler and do that too. In the beginning, when you're first learning and you're trying to figure out, if you're looking at reference photos and you're like, okay, so if that beak on this reference photo is this long and the head is this big, then the beak needs to be twice as big in length. That'll also help with accuracy. I hope this video helps. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.